Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Gardening in Cold Spring Harbor. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today is a more cloudy, cooler day here in Long Island, New York, Zone 7A. So we had some rainfall last night, you guys. Today is a more milder, cooler day here. We already spoke about raspberries and planting raspberry from bare roots in my previous video. So today I thought I would take the opportunity to talk to you guys about growing raspberries and raspberry maintenance, specifically on how and when to prune your existing raspberry bushes. So first of all, I want to talk to you guys about your growth cycle of your raspberry bush. So over here, as you could see, I have some of my more mature raspberry plants that I planted roughly 2 years ago. These raspberry plants are heritage raspberry variety bushes. So on this side of my south side garden, so against this wall here, I have my 7 more mature raspberry bushes. All of these are the heritage raspberry variety. And along this wall, as you could see, I have my Caroline and the Ann varieties that we planted together with you guys a little while ago from bare root. So your raspberry plants are actually made up of 2 working parts. So you have your upper part, which are your canes or your branches. Those are biennial, which means they have a 2-year growing cycle. And then you have your root system, which is below the soil level, which is your perennial working part of your raspberry plant. That part grows and comes back for you year after year. So there are 2 types of raspberry varieties, you guys. You have your summer bearing variety of raspberries, which usually produce fruits for you sometime in June, which is early summer. You have 1 crop of raspberries in June. However, they are larger and sweeter. You have also your ever-bearing raspberry varieties, which produce bare raspberries for you twice a year. The first time is sometime in June, so that's your early summer. And the second bear will be in late summer / early fall. Those varieties are a bit smaller in sizing though, compared to the summer bearing varieties, which only bear fruits once for you guys. So your summer bearing raspberry varieties, the first year of its growth, the canes just come up and they collect all that energy to start producing for you berries the second year of growth. So don't expect to see raspberries on your summer bearing raspberry varieties the first year. Yes, you might see a few blooms and you might see a few berries, but typically expect to gather and collect your raspberry harvest the second year of the bush's growth. So when pruning your summer bearing raspberry varieties, what exactly do you need to look for? First and foremost, you look for your last year's growth. So here's an example. You could see all these last year's little buds over here. So you take the branch that has your last year's growth and you prune it all the way down, almost to the ground, like so. What else do you prune? Make sure you prune down any branch that was damaged, broken, that seems weak And of course, if a branch is dead, you also want to prune it down. So this is an example of a broken and or damaged branch. So what I will do is I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to cut it off. So another helpful tip when pruning your summer bearing raspberry variety plant is you want to thin out your branches and or canes so that they are 4 to 6 inches apart. Why would you want to do that? First and foremost, you want to make sure that each of your plant's branches gets enough light and enough air. So you're ever bearing raspberry varieties. So you have your first year's canes come up and they grow. They will produce very little crop on top of the branch. So the following year, the second year, they will continue to produce on that same branch, you guys, just below last year's production. They will not produce on top where they say produced berries last year. So in that case, you only have to prune the top. Leave the rest of your cane so it will produce summer crop for you the following growing year. So there are 2 pruning methods when it comes to pruning your raspberry plant. So the first pruning method is you cut down all of your plant's branches or canes pretty much to the ground. You do not look for damaged canes, dead canes, last year's growth. You cut everything down pretty much to the ground. So this way you are eliminating your summer crop, you guys. But the good thing about that is that your plant will conserve all its energy. And the next time the plant will produce raspberries, there will be more raspberries and your raspberries will be bigger, juicier, and sweeter. So again, if you're choosing to do the total cut down to the ground, the easier method, again, when your plant decides to bear fruit for you again, you will see fruits most likely 2 weeks earlier than you typically do when using this pruning method. So the second pruning method is what I mentioned before. You look for your last year's growth, you trim off just the last year's growth, you thin down your plant, you get rid of your dead, your diseased, or your weak canes of your raspberry plant. This method is a little more tricky per se, a little more complicated because you have to kind of dig through your bushes, canes to decide what you want to prune, what you don't want to prune off. But again, you can choose between first method or your second method when pruning your raspberry plants. So let's say you just purchased a new home or you rented a new apartment or a house and you came to the garden and you see that there are already multiple raspberry plants growing in that garden. You have no idea what variety of raspberries those are. Are they summer bearing? Are they ever bearing? You don't know. So how can you tell? There is one easy way to tell. You take your pruning shears and you prune off the last year's growth and you leave the plants alone. If they will come back for you and bear fruit the next summer, then you have your summer bearing raspberry variety. So you already pruned off your last year's growth on your raspberry plant, and let's say your plant does not bear fruit in the summer, but it bears fruits for you the following growing period. So what does that mean? That simply means that you have an ever bearing variety of raspberry growing in your garden. So what pruning method am I going to use here today with my raspberries in my south side garden? Well, I think I'm going to use the method number 1 that I spoke about and cut off all of the branches pretty much to the ground. Why did I decide to do this today and not just cut off the, the dead, the damaged? Well, first and foremost, as you know, we recently had this garden built here. So my more mature raspberry plants did get some damage to their canes from the construction crew. So there's quite a few branches that got broken, bent, stepped on. So I am going to give these bushes a fresh start today. I will not have to clean up any leaves or debris. As you could see, my compost soil is very, very clean. There are no leaves or branches on my soil, so I will not need to do any cleanup today. I will, however, after I prune the bushes down, I will add my berry tone Espoma organic fertilizer to the soil and simply watch these babies come back and grow for me and bear more delicious berries for me. So let's get pruning. As you could see, guys, I am all done with pruning my heritage raspberry bushes. As you can also probably tell, I used the first pruning method today that I spoke about earlier in this video. I basically cut down all of my raspberry plants canes pretty much down to the ground, to the soil level. As you could see, the branches, the canes are green inside, which means that my raspberry plant is very much alive, just still in its dormancy phase. Now, all that's left to do is to fertilize my pruned raspberry bushes like so. So again, I am using the berry tone organic fertilizer, and I am just basically sprinkling it on top of my compost soil. Like so. And now we are done fertilizing our raspberries. So while fertilizing my freshly pruned heritage raspberry plants, I also decided to fertilize the new Caroline and Anne raspberry varieties that we planted a few weeks ago, you guys. I thought that they also can use some of the berry tone fertilizer to kick start their growth, since spring is right around the corner. So I am all finished with pruning my heritage raspberry plants. I am also done with fertilizing all of my raspberry plants, also including the new bare roots that we just planted a few weeks ago. And this is it for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching this video and for allowing me to show you how I take care, maintain, and most definitely prune my raspberry plants in my home garden. If you like this video, please click thumb up. Leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my new channel, Gardening in Cold Spring Harbor. Everyone, stay well, stay safe, and I cannot wait to see you in my new upcoming videos. Bye!